Everybody's reading books book club.
I think we nailed that one.
Oh. What's up, book nerds? The babes are back in town reading. The babes are back with this month's Babes Reading Books Book Club. I'm Roxanne.
I'm Vic. I'm Nadia.
And with you together, we're the babes. This month's book was Vic's pick. This was November's read, so hopefully you guys read it quickly. Because you have a week between this and then the next?
Much, just over.
So I read in one day. So you know what? You can too.
Exactly.
So take that.
And this month's book, or last month's book, was The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. A classic, just like As I Lay Dying, but a little bit different. So it's Great Gatsby. Oh, should I read the...
Yeah, always. Duh!
I almost forgot. In West Egg, Long Island, a mysterious millionaire named Jay Gatsby lives in a palatial mansion and throws parties that are the talk of New York. Yet very few guests know their host or where he came from. More intriguing for his young neighbor, Nick, is that every night he spies Gatsby gazing at a green light across the bay in East Egg. As the languid summer stretches and Nick is drawn further into his neighbor's world, he learns not only that the green light marks the home of his cousin Daisy and her husband Tom, but Daisy is the beacon that grew Gatsby here in the first place. F. Scott Fitzgerald's masterpiece novel continues to define the jazz age for generations of readers and deftly portrays the world of the very wealthy, their illusions, infidelities, and deceits in a heartbreaking story of impossible love, ambition, and tragedy.
Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun, dun. I think most of you know this story, so I've or watch a movie, so I've kind of structured this BRBBC a little bit differently, so we can go through our ratings, and then I wrote down the main characters and some points about them, and I kind of wrote like the two main themes, and then kind of wrote like a couple questions at the end. So a little bit different this time since it's a pretty well-known story. But yeah, should we start with ratings?
Yeah. You want to go first or last?
I'll go first. Why not?
Do it.
I love this book. I'm personally going to give it a 4.25 out of 5. I think it's one of my favorite books. It's in the top 10, near the bottom of the list, but it still makes one of my favorite books. I love the movie. I don't know, I really like this story. I like not... I don't know how to explain. I love the book. I don't really... Okay, well, we'll get into it, but I overall like the book. I like that it's like a classic, but it's easy to understand, unlike As I Lay Dying. I don't know, I think the themes are very clear, and the deeper meanings all very clear, and this is especially when I reread it the second time, because when I read it the first time, this all kind of brushed over my head. But when I reread it, it was like kind of shocking to me that how much I missed, and like just how everything connects. So we wrote an essay about this in high school, and when I wrote that, I kind of didn't really know what I was talking about. But rereading it, I was like, oh, like I actually understand what I like wrote about, and I can see all these connections. And I don't know, I'm a sucker for the character development and kind of seeing how characters grow, or like in this case, how you perceive Gatsby at the beginning versus how he actually is at the end. So yeah, I really like this book. I really enjoy it. I'm gonna give it a 4.25.
Okay. Now do you want to go next?
Sure. I'll hold my uglier version of it. I got this in high school, so don't judge me. But I'll give it a 3.5. I also like this book. Like, I like the vibes of it. I like the era. It's like the 20s, like late 20s. Mm-hmm. I like the allure of like the rich, the old money thing. The character development is like good, or like you said, like how we learn about the characters. But like overall, it just, I don't know, like I don't feel super connected to the characters, and like the story was like just okay for me, and that's why I gave it a 3.5 and not any higher. But like overall, very enjoyable, and yeah, a very, very accessible classic, which is I guess why they do it in high school here, because it's like pretty easy to read and understand. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let me hold it, thanks. I'm gonna switch it up and give it a 2.75. This book is super overrated. The writing, it's like As I Lay Dying. The fact that you said it's a classic yet it's well written, no, it's not. The freaking opening line, like there's so much garbage that's written in here that is so useless. So it's like in my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice that I've been turning over in my mind ever since. So hot start. We're reading in first person. What I hate is that we're reading in first person, but the things get revealed later in not in first person. So it's like, why did we do that switch up? I really didn't like that. He literally sets up like the story for like 7.5 years, but none of it was important to anything. I felt like the characters were just fine. I don't think there was that much development in the sense that like we never really even got to know them. I felt like the story like started here and finished like right here. So I felt like nothing was really going on. I like the idea behind it, and I feel like the basic story could have been way better, but I felt like the writing was just way too filled with like fancy words, which was just unnecessary. I didn't really like any of the characters, but in the sense that like it felt like there was just so much going on, nothing going on. I also feel like the only reason people like this is because it's talking about the rich people. Like that's, I don't know, I just don't see it as anything other than just like a just fine book. Would I read it again? Probably not. Yeah, I didn't really like it, but it was just fine. So that's why it gets a 2.75, because there was potential for a storyline, but I just feel like they didn't do it justice.
All right, so across the board this time.
We got all over the place.
I think for me, like just comparing it to when I read it in high school versus now, I'm like, I don't know, I guess just being more of an adult and having more of a
But it's like, I felt like all the themes were like, it was just all like this, and like you had to like, everything was so nuanced, and I was like, I get like having nuance, but it was like everything was nuanced, and it's like, I'm just trying to read a book. I'm not trying to read every sentence have a second meaning behind it, where it's like, what's going on, people? But I don't know, that's just how I felt, and like, I'm shocked that you like this book.
Me
because
too.
again, you say that you like character development, but I feel like there was no character
There wasn't
development.
necessarily character development, more just to like character like reveals about the character as you go through it. Like I like learning, like I like the mystery versus like finding out at the end.
I guess,
you know?
but like I don't even feel like it was that strong. And then also on top of that, if you didn't like the wording of the as I lay dying, I'm shocked that you like this. Like I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying like that surprises me, because as I was reading, I was like, oh, okay, like I'm sure it'll be like kind of like books that you've liked before, so nothing like As I Lay Dying. But like literally I was reading this and I was like, it is the closest book that we've read yet to As I Lay Dying for me. But so it's just interesting for me.
Also, have you guys watched the movie of it?
No.
I've seen the movie.
Okay. The movie is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Okay,
that might be playing into it, because like when I read it, like I also picture the characters, I picture the movie.
That makes sense.
too,
I wasn't able to develop a
that.
picture, and I think that's part of why I didn't like it, is because it's like all these fancy words and all that stuff, like it was distracting from like creating a storyline and like imagining people, because I've never seen the movie, which I guess I have to watch now, but so I feel like maybe that's what, because if you like the movie, then I could see
I think
that
that
a little
probably
more.
would be like another thing that ties it.
Yeah, because definitely helps it out,
for sure.
like in making it clearer, because I just felt like it was all very, like it just kind of felt like a fever dream. I don't know.
It gives that vibe. It does give a whole fever dream kind of vibe, which I think I kind of like, because it is different from what I usually read and what I like. But I think that's why I partially like it as well, is that it's different. And it also is, I forgot about the fact that it is like a period piece, and I do love a good period piece. But yeah.
To an extent. But
To an extent, yeah, different era. But yeah, okay. So I have the characters, I wrote some notes about them, you can just discuss the characters, whatnot. So the main character is obviously Mr. J. Gatsby. So he is
Sorry, who said that?
the biggest simp of the nation.
So desperate.
He
Get a grip.
has always wanted to be rich. He was poor when he was born, and he has this obsession with the past, which kind of ties into his absolute obsession with Daisy, the character Daisy. And basically his whole life it's very sad. His whole life is basically dedicated to Daisy. He acquired his whole wealth for her. He throws all these extravagant parties in hopes that she'll attend. And Daisy, he obviously met before the war, and then he fell in love and said, "Wait for me." And Daisy did not wait. Surprise. And he's kind of dedicated his whole life basically to winning Daisy back. So at the beginning, he is very mysterious. We don't really know much about him. There's kind of like hints towards him being like involved in some illegal scams and, whatever underground deals. And this is what I was talking about before. And until like the end of the novel, we really find out he's just like a really innocent, like completely naive man, which just contradicts like this mysterious, like everyone kind of views him as this like powerful, like this like big party man, kind of like, you know what I mean?
But not really, but because people in the beginning say that they guess that he's a bootlegger.
Yeah, so they
that's the
see him
part
as
that
like a
gets me.
gangster, like a, you know,
Yeah, but
they're
that's the-
scared
that's
of
what he
him. But at
was.
the end of the day, he's like the most naive, like man, like he's
He's
literally
just a normal guy,
Yeah.
it seems like, who like happened to
But he was a
fall
bootlegger.
into some money, yeah.
Yeah, but he is. But like everyone assumed like they're scared of him. They're like he's mysterious. They don't know anything about him. But at the end he's like he's literally
'cause-
in Daisy's bushes.
I guess, but like what
You know?
what I gathered from that more was that like no one cares to figure anything out about him because they're just using them for his parties.
Yeah, that's also
That's
another
kind of like
theme
so
of
it's
the book
like
as well. Yeah, he's so blinded by love that he like thinks that Daisy can like just drop Tom with a blink of an eye and like go to him like it doesn't affect anything. So basically, he's just like so naive.
But not really, because she was gonna drop everything and leave Tom.
No, she never will.
I don't think she ever would.
No.
Like, I think it was, like, in his head that she
Yeah.
would do that for him because, like, they loved each other so much back in the day. But, like, then, like, at the end of the day, like, she has something with Tom, and maybe it's not love, but, like, they've built this, like, isn't it, like, an old money, new money thing? Like, Gatsby's really new money, and Daisy and Tom are really old money.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah.
have that.
But didn't she say she would leave him?
She said
Did I
it, but it's like
hallucinate that?
Did she mean it, though?
it's
But
like
it
the
doesn't
thing is
matter.
she
The
says
fact
these
that she
things,
still
but
said it
yeah, exactly. That's
doesn't change the fact that like we don't know that
No,
she
she
wouldn't
wouldn't.
have.
She wouldn't, because in chapters, it's all in chapter 7, I believe, when all that goes down. But yeah, because it alludes to the fact that like basically Daisy will, if we go into Daisy now, she's obsessed with like money, vanity. Like she's very shallow, and the whole thing is like, yeah, she does love Gatsby, but at the end of the day, she would never leave Tom. And this comes back to when their whole thing before they go to the Plaza Hotel near the end of the.
Or side note,
with the
Oh my
sign-
god, wait! Do
Yeah.
they
we're at
really
the
go?
Plaza
Yeah.
Hotel.
Yeah,
Just saying.
we just came back from New York, so this is all
We were just there.
very relevant. But yeah, she chooses Tom over Gatsby, even though like Gatsby promises her this, and he's like, "Oh, we have all the old love together." But it just goes to show, like they're showing that Daisy is just such a shallow human and person that even after Tom treats her horribly, she'll still stay with him.
No, I interpret it completely differently. I interpret it because it's like Tom, like decides she obviously messed up. Shocker if anyone hasn't watched this. She kills this woman. And now it's like she needs Tom to be on her side because otherwise he tosses her under the bus. So she's trapped. Like I saw more as kind of like she was gonna leave, but then that happened and then she can't leave anymore because she like this man's gonna turn her in.
Tom
Like
will
that's
never
kind of where I
turn
saw
her in.
it.
He would put it. He would
He broke what was her name again?
Myrtle.
Myrtle's nose.
Yeah, but she would, because the thing, Tom was so jealous of Gatsby that he would do anything to keep Daisy, and he would completely throw Gatsby under the bus. That's why. Like, and Daisy also let Gatsby take the fall. Like,
Yeah.
he didn't do anything about that.
And she kind of sucks.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's like a false love, you
Yeah.
know?
She's just going with whatever benefits her more,
Yeah.
sort of thing, which leads to the whole like old money, new money, you know.
Yeah.
Then we have Nick, who's kind of sort of the narrator of the book, kind of a middle party. He's kind of, you know, in between it all, seeing both sides. Kind of seen as like, I guess, the neutral figure between it all. And you know, he's kind of like at the beginning of the book a bit obsessed with this lifestyle. He's more on the, you know, poorer side. Well, not poor, but he still lives in a nice area, but you know what I mean. So he's more on the poorer side, and he sees this, like, he's intrigued by all this fast-paced life and these rich people. Like, he's very intrigued with his neighbor Gatsby, as you see. But then for him, it's like towards the end of the book, he realizes how shallow and like empty these people are who are obsessed with money, that he hates that lifestyle, and at the end he moves away and wants nothing to do with it. And that's also symbolized with his relationship with Jordan, how he was kind of like obsessed with her because of like who she is, but then he was also disgusted at the same time of her always lying, like her dishonesty and how she was faking her tennis wins or whatever.
Tennis? Wasn't she a golfer?
Oh yeah, sorry, golf.
Okay, I was
yeah.
so confused. I don't know. I don't know. I think I just completely different. I think I interpreted this book completely differently. And I know that like this is a lot what people like usually say, but I'm like, if you read the book, like I don't see it as much. I feel like everyone's like extrapolating because that's what they want it to be, like the old money, new money thing. But like it's not that talked about in the book enough for it to be as big as like, you know, because I remember like everything we learned in school too. And even with like Nick, it's like, oh, how he like looks down on it all. He doesn't. He just notices that it's like nobody cares about anything there. But it's like, but it's not just that. It's because Jay didn't bother making relationships. Like he was all business and he never cared about anyone other than Daisy. So it's like, you know, like it's just it's wild. But
I guess that's why we studied in high school, because it can be interpreted like a million ways, and there's like a million deeper meanings, and that's literally why like everyone writes a different essay and can still get a good mark because it can be interpreted
Who knows
a million ways.
what
Yeah,
F. Scott Fitzgerald actually meant.
and we'll never know. We just have to take whoever's Spark Notes owner is for real. And then we have Tom. So he's just basically, what's it called? The antagonist, the villain. Basically, kind of the story. He's racist. He's abusing. He's cheating on Daisy. And it's I don't know. I enjoy the irony of him getting extremely jealous of that Gatsby is into Daisy, yet he is treating Daisy like garbage and cheating on her. And like it's just to show that he is really just the scum. Yeah. And then we also have Myrtle and like George Wilson, who are kind of just like representative of like the poor side of the class system, and it's basically showing how Myrtle just like wants to escape her life and she wants to pretend that she's wealthy and like lives this upper lifestyle. That's why she's kind of going along with Tom cheating on her husband. But yeah, one of the things that like I read is that basically like all these people who are on like the poor side, or not poor side, whatever, they're just at like the mercy of all these rich people. Like she dies because of people she doesn't know, like Daisy and whatnot. Basically the theme of the book is kind of like everyone's so like intrigued and like obsessed with this being upper class, being rich, the parties and everything, but at the end of the day they're just all empty people, like who don't care about anyone, who like don't really have any real relationships. Like all their relationships are fake, they're for personal gain. And is that like really enough? Is like money really enough to make you happy? As we learn, it is not. When I was reading this, I was like, oh, what are the symbols? Because I remember talking about this in high school, so I looked up what they said the symbols were. And then, Spark Notes. Spark Notes said the main symbols of the book are the green light, eyes, and the Valley of the Ashes. And the green light's supposed to symbolize Gatsby's hope. And like future, how he always stares into the green light.
And it goes off at the end, right?
Yeah. And at the end, it's supposed to be like he finally is on the other side of the green light, like he's at Daisy and Tom's house. But like he finally reached what he wanted, but he doesn't get it, sort of thing. So that's like the journey with the green light.
Roxanne hates that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think someone just made this arbitrarily and then they just connected these dots because it doesn't make any sense. Like, I was reading the book and I remember all these things from high school, and I was reading and I was like, I feel like all these things were so made up. Like, I genuinely don't believe. Like, it's like the green light, like, blah, like a table, like, blah, but it's like, there's a green light at her dog. He's obsessed with her. It could have been any, like, it's just like, it frustrates me because I don't see it. I don't see that it's like he did get his dream in the end. He did get Daisy to an extent, and he just got killed. It's like his dream got cut short because he died. Everything, his life got cut short because he died. We don't know anything that would happen otherwise. And it's like, I get it, like all this stuff, but it's like, I feel like they cut the story so short where it's like he dies and then like Daisy leaves and all that stuff. But it's like at the end, you don't know that Daisy didn't have to go with Tom for any reason. Like there's all these like questions and like, you can look at a point in time and make judgments from it, but I feel like it's not enough to actually make calls that have been made. And I'm like, it's driving me insane because it's like that. And then like even with like the money, like he got all the money, like at the end of the day, like he got his money. Of course it's not old money and whatever, questionable how he got it, if it's a good way, whatever. But it's like, he did that for Daisy, but like he still crushed that.
But yeah, then I thought we could talk kind of about the ending and our thoughts on it, because a lot basically happens. Yeah, I do agree with you that it is kind of like a bit of like fluff and like a fever dream for most of the book, and then kind of in the last section, everything happens at once. But so yeah, the ending. So Nick comes into Gatsby, Jordan, Tom, and Daisy all at their house, and this is when Daisy and Gatsby are like giving each other the eyes, and Tom finally clicks and realizes, oh, Gatsby's in love with my wife, and this is where he gets extremely jealous of Gatsby, even though he's also cheating on Daisy. And then Daisy is also bored and suggests, why don't we go into town? And then Tom, who really just wants to basically fight and start a fight with Gatsby, says, yes, let's go, because he knows something will escalate there. So they go to the Plaza Hotel, and there Tom confronts Gatsby, basically asks him, hey, you love my wife? And then Gatsby very naively is like, yes, we're in love. She's gonna leave you, blah, blah, blah. Tom knows this isn't true. And to prove it, he knows he's so secure in his relationship, he sends off Daisy and Gatsby together in the car to go home, and then he goes with the rest. On their way home, turns out that Jordan, Nick, and Tom run into George's car shop where Myrtle is dead. And they found out it's Gatsby's car that hit her, that killed her. So they get back to Tom's and Daisy's house, and Nick sees Gatsby in Daisy's bushes outside her house, and he confesses that Daisy was driving the car when they hit Myrtle, but he's gonna take the fall for her because they're in love. Daisy's leaving Tom, and they're gonna live happily ever after, whatnot. And then he's like, I'm waiting outside the bushes because I'm gonna make sure that Tom doesn't hurt Daisy. And he convinces Nick to go in and check on her, and you can see him in this chapter very strongly. His total switch in character, how he's completely like so naive and like kind of dumb and like love struck, and by the way he's talking, it changes character from, this mysterious guy at the beginning. Nick goes in and checks on them, and they're completely fine, and Nick realizes in this moment that like, yeah, Daisy's never leaving Tom for you, like your dream's over. But he tries to tell Gatsby that Gatsby still stays. He says he's gonna stay for a little bit and wait for Daisy to come out, kind of symbolizing the dream's dead. She's never coming out. It's over. So George, who is Myrtle's husband, thinks that whoever hit Myrtle is also the one cheating on Myrtle with, because he found out that Myrtle is cheating on him. And Tom goes to tell him that, hey, it's Gatsby. That's Gatsby's car, which again is just another ironic thing because he's the one that was sleeping with his wife. So George, who is obviously a very, sad character, goes to Gatsby's house and shoots him dead in the pool, and then also ends up killing himself. So now Nick finds out Gatsby's dead, and he tries to go arrange a funeral. He thinks that, there's going to be so many people that come to this funeral because look at Gatsby. He had such big parties. He knows so many people. Turns out no one shows up. Tom and Daisy move away, don't even leave an address, don't even show up to his funeral, even though they're the ones responsible, basically, for this guy being dead. And no one turns up to the funeral at all, which just ends the novel with Nick being like, these people are very shallow, they're empty, it's kind of sad. And that is basically the crazy ending. So I guess what I want to pose is, what do you think of the ending? Do you think Gatsby deserved his ending, or sort of?
To an extent, like being alone at the funeral, yeah, because again, I repeat, it's like, it's not just that no one liked Gatsby, it's like, Gatsby didn't care about anyone else either because he was just obsessed with Daisy, so it's like, that part's not shocking to me. Like, the sad part is that, like, he got killed in the end. I don't know, I feel like that almost didn't make, I don't know, for me it kind of felt like a cop-out of the story, where it's like, okay, he's just dead, and then like they just move away and then all this stuff. But I feel like it was not a big like plot twist, it was a little bit of like a cheap ending. That's kind of how I felt. But
I don't think he deserved it, because I don't think he was a bad guy. Like, yeah, he was kind of just like obsessed with this girl, and like he was doing everything for her, but like I don't know, it just like really sucks. Like he threw all these parties and people loved him then, but then like, you know, he dies and then no one shows up.
But even with that, like, they loved the parties. They didn't, like, no one knew who Gatsby was. Like, the whole point of, like, Nick going in and asking people, like, oh, like, do you know Gatsby? And, like, no one knew him.
But, like, they showed up to his
They love
house.
the idea of him.
Yeah,
the
like,
mystery.
But they won't show up
behind
to
it.
his funeral. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's,
Like this fakeness. Like
Yeah.
everyone's like two-faced. They're fake. They only care about themselves. Sort of situation.
yeah.
Basically was the whole kind of theme. And yeah, I agree with like both of you guys in that sense. Yeah, like it's interesting because it's like it's borderline creepy. This man is borderline creepy. His obsession for Daisy, how he's turned his whole life like to like trying to win her back. But at the end, on another hand, it's also just extremely sad, like that he is just so obsessed with Daisy that like he doesn't care to make relationships with anyone. That he just his only purpose in life is to win this girl back. Like he doesn't care about himself even.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You kind of you feel bad for the guy, you know?
Yeah, so like you feel bad for him in a way, and then in a way you're like, well, like come on.
Yeah.
Like you should have seen this coming. Which, I don't know. I guess that's one thing, I enjoy about this book. I usually don't like to think about books, but I think I guess partially like knowing the movie too. I like the interpreting it. Like I like how there's like different hidden meanings and everything, and like how I read it once in high school and thought one thing. How I read it once when I helped my brother out for his school, thought another thing, and then I read it a third time and then completely saw a different thing from it. Like every time you read it, I feel like there's something new to discover, which I don't know. I found I think that's why I like it, and I think it's like understandable like class. Like I feel like all the classic books are like ones that are like learned in school because you can interpret them differently, and I usually hate all of those because they're too hard. But like this one, I felt like, oh, I can actually understand some of the different, like I can actually understand like some of the themes. I can actually understand, like I see the progression from me reading at grade 11 versus me now kind of thing. And I think that's why it sticks out to me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess my last final question is, since technically last month's was a classic as well, I guess like why do you think this one's considered a classic novel as well? We kind of already covered that, but you know what I mean?
As well?
Yeah.
Like, why is it
Why is this, like, Great Gatsby considered a classic?
I think, again, because it's just, like, it's, like, posh writing, and then it's a story that people will eat up because it's about, like, the rich. That's why, like, As I Lay Dying was, like, fully about, like, poor people, and I think people like to imagine themselves better than that book. And then I feel like in this story, too, it's, like, the upper class, and then you can kind of be like, oh, well, they're all shallow. So I think that's why they're classics, because it gives people an opportunity to look down on others.
Oh,
Deep.
so deep. Yeah, I agree. Like that. The posh writing like definitely helps, and like the time it was written as well. And yeah, like I think kind of what you said about like how it's able to be interpreted in so many different ways, and there's like all these symbolism and like all the stuff people pull out of it. Like I think that helps.
That also begs a good question for your points right now, because like what are modern classic novels? Because all this stuff is old, you know?
I don't think
all
we
these
know
classics,
yet, right?
I guess, yeah, they just, stuff that's written now are just not
Some of them will become
be
classics,
in the future, but like, yeah, like what is the criterion for being a classic novel?
That's what I'm saying. Again.
I've seen like lists of like books that came out in the last few years that people think will be classics one day, but like I think like you need some time between like when it's written and when you consider it a classic. Because like if you consider a 2022 book a classic, like I don't know, something about that's not right.
Yeah.
Maybe it needs to be
because
old.
the whole point is that it withstands the test of time.
Yeah, true.
So it's like the time hasn't passed yet, so we don't know. But there's some books out there that I could see potentially becoming like a classic, but yeah, again, I just think it's the only reason people like these ones is because also back in the day it was slimmer pickings.
That's true.
Like literally to write a novel, it would like, and just to print a book, it would just cost so much, right? Whereas now it's a little different. But yeah, I kind of, the main themes that I see between the two is just it's an excuse for people to look down on others and like kind of be like, oh, it makes you feel better about yourself. So that's good. I could see why people would like reading these books. Where it's kind of like the classic tale of like, oh, like they're rich but they're shallow, so it's kind of like, is it really worth it? And then the reverse, like they're poor but like, you know, so you can be like, okay, thank goodness it's not me. Like there's so much more poor than me, so I don't have to worry about that. That's at least how I view it a little. But again, let us know how you view it, because again, everyone's different, everyone's coming from a different point of view, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. Speaking of a classic, this is one of the books that I think will be a classic as well.
I've seen this one on lists that like modern books might be a classic, and that book is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. Should I read the back?
Yes, please.
Sorry. Okay. Standing on the fringes of life offers a unique perspective, but there comes a time to see what it looks like from the dance floor. Oh, sorry. That was just like the, you know, the thing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, this is the actual description. It is the story of what it's like to grow up in high school. More intimate than a diary, Charlie's letters are singular and unique, hilarious and devastating. We may not know where he lives. We may not know to whom he is writing. All we know is the world he shares. Caught between trying to live his life and trying to run from it puts him on a strange course through uncharted territory. The world of first dates, family dramas, and new friends. The world of sex, drugs, and the Rocky Horror Picture Show, where all you need is that perfect song on that perfect drive to feel infinite.
Yeah. So, again, make sure you keep up with us. This is December's pick, or last pick of the year. So make sure you pick up the book, read it along, and tune in with us next month. And by next month, I mean next video.
Next week.
Because we've got jam-packed BRBBCs coming up this past month, I know, but it had to be done. So again, follow us on all our socials, subscribe to us on our YouTube channel, make sure you follow us on Twitter and TikTok at 2girlsbeingbros, and on Instagram, 2girlsbeingbros_. Give this video a big thumbs up, and see you in the next month. Bigs out.